Hi everyone, this is just going to be a very quick video of me giving my quick thoughts on Fantastic Four, mainly because everyone else has already reviewed it and you've already heard the bad news about how terrible this film is, so there's really no need to go into great detail, so I'm just not going to do that. But Fantastic Four, to come out and say it, yeah, it sucks. It's pretty much just as bad as everyone says it is. And it's not even one of those films that's so bad that it's great. No, it's one of those films that's just so bad, it just flat out sucks. Structurally, the film is all over the place. The dialogue is horrendous. The characterization is absolutely non-existent. And the acting, they're basically all robots. Okay, so I felt this very compulsive need to provide just a little bit more detail with some of the problems that I have with this film. Going back to the characters, this is supposed to be an origin story. Yet, there is no origin story to be found here. For starters, one of the ones that actually could have been quite interesting if they had actually explored it some more was the one featuring Jamie Bell, his character, when he's a child and he comes from a broken home. But it only lasts for like 15 seconds. It's incredibly short and very undercooked. As for Miles Teller's character, we do get a glimpse into his childhood, but it doesn't even show his home life. It's just him at school being ridiculed by his dumbass teacher, and that's it. Then there's also Sue Storm, played by Kate Mara, and I think the film might have actually mentioned what happened to her parents, but I'm not sure. But the film just mentions that she was adopted by the Storm family. And speaking of the Storm family, there is Johnny Storm. And at first, he kind of seems to have just, a little bit of character, but that's quickly nuked. All I know about him is that he likes cars. He likes to build stuff. The film doesn't do a damn thing with its characters, and the dialogue is so bad. It's as if the writers have never actually spoken to a real person before. I'm not even joking. And if it's not the dialogue, it's the lack of emotions or lack of appropriate emotions when characters are spouting out the dialogue. And I also heard that since this movie went through such production hell, there were even scenes that were filmed by different filmmakers. And you can kind of see that. And there's one thing that I have to mention. There is a montage in this film that features the Fantastic Four putting together this vehicle to go to Planet Zero for the very first time. And so yes, there's a montage there of them putting all the stuff together. It's kind of whatever. I mean, it's like watching people, put together a ship. It's not the most exciting thing to watch, but okay. What's funny is that when they do get their powers, the film fast forwards a year, and I was like, if you were going to do a montage, why didn't you do that? I mean, I know it's cliche, but wouldn't that at least kind of lent itself to some kind of emotion with the characters, them experiencing their powers for the first time? I mean, wouldn't that have done something, And speaking of the Fantastic Four getting their powers and emotions, there's a scene with Reggie Cathy, Dr. Storm, and he sees his son for the first time, Michael B. Jordan, in flames. And, he's on a table, he's unconscious, and this is after, the big incident. And instead of him just freaking out, going like, oh my God, my son's on fire, whatever, no, he just kind of sits there and goes, oh, my son, my son. That's it. Just no emotion. It's like, wow, you're taking this incredibly well for a guy who's seeing your son basically being, I don't know, burnt to a crisp. I mean, to me, I think that'd just be kind of horrifying, but whatever. Honestly, this is one of those movies that lends itself to analyzation, just to point out all the terrible flaws with it. I mean, really, you could sit here for hours doing that, just picking it apart. There's so much wrong with this movie. It's astounding. Another thing that I want to mention is that the actors Kate Mara, Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, and Jamie Bell, they're supposed to be playing high schoolers. And they do not look like they belong in high school whatsoever, except maybe Miles Teller. He can kind of get away with it. But as for the others, no. Just no. So those are my thoughts on Fantastic Four, though one thing I did forget to mention was the CGI. It's quite awful. And there are two things that I guess I kind of liked about the film. One was the first scene on Planet Zero. I thought that was a little bit engaging. And Toby Kebbell as Dr. Doom. There's kind of a cool scene with him where he goes around killing all these people. But aside from that, the movie's bullshit. Before I give my rating, I do want to say this. I have heard some people compare this film to a film like Batman and Robin. And I can see why, but at the same time, I don't think this film is as bad as Batman and Robin. That's one of the worst films that I've ever seen. So that just kind of gives you an insight to how I feel about that film. I do think they are both great examples of how not to make a superhero movie, so there is that. So I'm going to give Fantastic Four a 1 out of 5. And don't be like me and go, I've heard all these bad reviews, and now I gotta see this film for myself. I gotta see how bad this film really is. No, do not do that. This film is simply not worth your hour and 30-something minutes, okay? Don't see it in the theater. Don't bootleg it. Don't rent it. I wouldn't even bother watching it when it comes on TV. It's not worth your time. Don't see this film. And as always, I'm Colyn Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.